Hi everyone, it's Natalia, and today I want to show you how I made these Christmas nails that I made for myself here. It's a pretty long process, so we should probably get going. Let's go. So here's the supplies that I use to make these. So I have this 3D bow mold. It's one of my most used molds, I would say. I use some sort of milky white 3D modeling gel, this Born Pretty stuff. I have, of course, the Nail and Yali color palette, because I bought it, so I might as well use it for a bunch of stuff. I'm using the red, the green, the white, and the pink. Light pink. We've also got some of the Show Me Korea Kesara gel, the number 1. And I'm using 2 of the Yogo Mayo butter collections, the number 3, which is the sheer pink, and the number 2, which is the off-white syrup. I'm also going to be using Crazy Top, all of them, the soft, the standard, and the thick. I'm getting all of the Jinbei Crazy Tops out today. So we're going to be using every single one of them. I'm also going to be putting on some of these snowflake glitters, the white ones that came in this little set. I'm going to be using some silver and gold caviar beads and some light pink and some red rhinestones as well. We're all going together, doing like a pink and red vibe today. And we are also going to be using some of the Mappa Nails gold metallic gel. Some of this matching, it's not from the same place, but it matches very well. Gold powder. And some of these silver snowflake charms. And we're going to be putting all the charms on with our usual Jinbei Ivy Fix gel. So that is what we are using today. So we're going to be using some medium oval nails. They're my go-to, sort of like the medium round. These are from Soft Gel. They're the size I normally wear for myself. I really like the medium from Soft Gel. So, of course, as usual, to prep the nails, we are going to be filing off the tops because they're usually a little rough from where they were on the stand. Sometimes they have little nubs and stuff, so we want to make them nice, smooth, and round. And then after we got that, we're taking a buffing block and we're going to buff all the nails to remove any of the shine that remains on them. You don't want any of the shine left so that the gel will stick to it nicely. You need a little bit of tooth in there. And then, of course, before we start painting, after we buff, we are going to wipe them all down with some isopropyl alcohol. And then once we have them all wiped down and all the dust removed, we are ready to start painting. Give them a little wipe. Okay, so we are going to be doing 2 nails in the YMB02, which is like a nice white syrup, and then the other 3 in the YMB03, which is a pink syrup. I really love the collection this came in, the butter collection. Everything I use will be linked down below as well. So we're going to be doing the index and the pinky in the white and the rest in the pink. Let's start with the white. So I know that like pink Christmas nails aren't really the norm, but my husband bought me this really cute pink and white candy cane sweater. And so I'm really kind of making the nails to match that sweater when I wear it, because we will be heading across country to visit my family for Christmas this year. And I wanted to look cute and coordinated. So we're going to do the first coat. We're going to be doing 2 coats of this because the first coat is incredibly sheer, I find, with the Mayo butter collection, but then the second coat really like deepens the color to like the perfect consistency for my preferences. Anyway, so once we have the first coat down, set it in for a full cure, and then pull it out and do a second coat. These are really beautifully buildable syrups. Now, I do find with the Mayo brand, like their syrup gels tend to have a lot of inhibition layer, like the sticky layer on top of the nails after you cure them. So be sure to wipe them down before putting on a different type of gel and stuff with some alcohol, just to get rid of that. But I do love pretty much every collection. I own a couple collections by them, and I've loved every single one. Okay, stick that in for a full 60-second cure. Next, we're going to add a bit of glitter. So the middle finger is going to be fully covered by glitter. This is the US06 from the Show Me Korea Que Sera Sera collection. So we're going to do fully glittered out on the middle finger over the pink. And then on the other ones, we're going to put it on, sort of focusing mostly on the free edge of the nail. We're going to do sort of like a glitter. It's not quite an ombre, but it's just going to be thinner out near the top. You want it to be mostly concentrated near the tip of the free edge of the nail. Stick that on. We're going to do the same on the pinky over the white base. And then what I like to do is just take a liner brush and just sort of blend it a bit more. Don't like doing glitter ombres. It's just do it mostly by vibes. Just try, because it can't be perfect because it's not like a solid color, right? But just sort of move it around until it looks nice to your eyes. And then once you have the glitter in place, as always, stick it under the lamp and cure it for the full 60 seconds. So we're going to be doing 2 plaid nails here. So I'm going to be using the Nail and Lolly palette here to do sort of the plaid lines. So on the thumb, we're going to be starting with the first line we're going to do is a thicker white line. I find really doing the vertical lines so much easier than doing the horizontal lines on nails, because you have to sort of like compensate for the curve a lot less. But I find it easier to sort of brace your elbows against your desk, brace your pinky against your other hand, and then paint very slowly and try to be as smooth as possible. But, you know, all things are a process, and I'm certainly not perfect at doing straight lines. So the only way you can get better at it is to keep going. So on the ring finger, we're going to start with a thicker horizontal green line. Now for these ones, I find it easier to do the lines in smaller segments because of the curve of the nail makes it very difficult to keep a straight line. So I'm doing 2 sort of parallel green lines and then filling in the center, but I'm doing them in small chunks. I'm using the Mayo short liner brush as well, which I really do enjoy quite a bit. I also have the Diami number 10 line brush for another one, which is really great for super thin lines. So fully cure that, and we're on to the next one. Here I'm doing the red with the Diami number 10 short liner. As you can see, look how thin that line can get. And as you can see, I sort of messed up, made it a little thick, so I'm just taking a micro Q-tip with some alcohol on it and just sort of fixing it up a little bit. I'm going to be doing another red line. For the plaid lines, do them wherever you feel looks best. I'm just sort of riffing with it. So I'm doing a horizontal one. If it's the same color, you can definitely do 2 lines before they cure. I just didn't want, I didn't want to mix up the colors. We're doing a little red line here. And then on the ring finger, we're going to do a vertical red line as well. And stick it in for a full cure. Okay, we're going in for more lines. And adding a horizontal line. And then on the ring finger, we're going in with the white. I'm switching up the colors so that the nails sort of look unique to one another with how the lines like intersect each other. Like which ones are on top and on bottom. But you do it however you want. If you want them to be exactly the same, make them exactly the same. I wanted them to be a little different for my own, you know, preferences. But when you're making a set of nails, if you make this set of nails, well, first off, please let me know. But secondly, just make the plaid however you like. Once you got those lines in, stick it again for another full cure. I'm going to be adding some gold lines now. I'm using this Plaid Nails gold gel. I really like it for sort of accents. I've never tried it as like a full coverage nail because like it really shows the brush strokes in it. But for line work, I find it looks really nice. It's like an accent. I'm going to do a horizontal line. And then a vertical one to go with it. Now, to be honest, like these plaid nails would have looked nice just on their own. Like I think that a full set of nails like this would look really quite cool. But I love a good 3D moment on a nail. I like my hands to feel heavy when I'm wearing nails, you know what I mean? So I'm doing a kind of thicker gold line on the ring finger. And then stick that under the lamp here. And then I wanted to do one more horizontal line in the red on the ring finger, going over the gold. So adding that in. And then that is the plaid part of the nails done. So after fully curing that, we're going to be working on the bow. So I have this bow mold and I wanted it to be like really big to go on the thumb. So I have this 3D gel. I'm doing it in the red. It's not the same red. Like I will paint it again, but I wanted to use a color that was similar to the color that I'd be painting it so that it would, if there were a few bare patches, they wouldn't really notice. You wouldn't notice if you're looking at them. So for this gel, for these molds especially, because they're quite thick, you want to do several thin layers. Just like make sure you get into all like the nooks and crannies in the bottom of it and with the first layer so that there's no air bubbles. And then you always flip it over and look at it. And then I use my pin cure lamp to cure between each layer. And I do like several thin layers because you don't want this to be full of like uncured gel on the inside. So you flip it to make sure it looks good on that side. And then continue to cure and just build up the layers with the 3D gel. And this would be if you were using gel out of a bottle or using one of these squeeze gel bottles or even, just regular jewelry resin. You want to do it in thin layers, curing between each layer until you have the full mold filled up, especially since these bow molds are pretty thick. So once it looks good, you're going to stick it in and cure it on both sides at least for 60 seconds. After you're done, then you're going to pull it out of the mold, remove any sort of stringies that sometimes get, attached. And then I'm sticking this on a little nail stand because I'm going to pull out the same red I used on the plaid to give her a nice top coat, a base, recolor it in the same red that I used on the rest of the nails. So I'm just using a flat oval brush here to just get into all of the nooks and crannies. Just give it a nice thin layer of the red paint so that it matches the red that I chose for the plaid. And you just want to have that fully covered. And then once it is and you got all the little corners, you want to stick it under the lamp again to fully cure it. So now we're going to be putting the gems on the plaid nails. I'm using the Ivy Fix gel as my rhinestone gel. And we're going to be starting with the ring finger where I'm putting 2 of these silver snowflake charms. I've linked these below as well. I really like these. They have like a nice little gentle curve to them. I'm flash curing them in place before I put the next one on. And then on the thumb, we're going to be putting the bow. Now, I always do the thumb in the opposite direction of the rest of my nails just because how you look at them, and I find it looks better. So the top of the bow I'm putting near the free edge instead of near the cuticle. But as I said, your nails, you do what you want if you like to do it the other way. So I'm doing the tendrils first and then making sure the rest of the nail is stuck down and pulling away any nail excess of the, the fixed gel. And making sure everything is stuck down. And I hold it down from the top while I flash cure it so that it doesn't like slowly pull up from the nail and leave a gap. I find this is very useful with bigger charms. And then once you've got it basically flash cured into place, you can stick it under the lamp for a full cure. And as the final thing that we're going to do to the bow, we're going to add a little red rhinestone in the middle using the rhinestone glue. Putting sort of a little medium-sized rhinestone there in the middle. And then flash cure that into place once you get it stuck the way, right the way you like it. And then I'm going to be using the same glitter from the other nails to just add a few little glitter elements onto parts of the bow. Because I like to have nails like tied into each other. Like I like elements to travel between nails. So I'm adding just a little bit of glitter to add just a little bit of pizzazz and to tie it into the glitter on the other nails. And then once you've got the way you like it, fully cured again. So next we're going to be doing the index finger, which I'm going to be putting some of these little snowflake into like little ornaments. So I'm taking 2 of these little snowflake sequin glitters. They're sort of a white pink reflective. And I'm using the light pink from the nail in Yali that matches the pink that we picked for the other nails. And I'm going to be drawing 2 pink circles at different heights on this nail. Because these are going to be sort of like, those little circle ornaments that you put on trees. They're going to be in pink. I will say the pink does show up in person more on camera. It kind of looks like I'm just doing white over white, but it is a different color. You're going to do 2 little circles and fill them in, because that's going to be sort of like the background of our little 3-dimensional tree ornaments. And once you've got these circles the way you like them, we are going to stick them under the lamp for a full cure. Next, I'm taking the red, and on one of them, I'm going to be doing a sort of red middle border. Because again, I like to tie in all the colors throughout the nails. And then on the other one, we're going to go in with the green, and we're going to do a little green center band. And fully cure that. So using the fixed gel, we are going to be using that to stick on the little snowflakes as sort of the central motif. Now for these, do not worry if they stick up a little, because we will be encapsulating them fully in a moment. So stick them on and then cure them. So taking your Crazy Top Thick or whatever 3D building gel that you, or 3D embo gel that you like, mine fighting with it a little, you're gonna put like a circular glob to make them into little half spheres, to make little, Christmas tree ornament, little circles. So I just do that by sort of putting a glob down in the center and then just continuing to swirl around the outside to shape it into the full, shape, the size and shape that I like. And then hold it upside down and then flash cure it into place. And then do the other, pull off the cat hair, and then do your other ornament. I like to hold the brush to let gravity glob the gel together, and then put it on in the center and whirl it around. And then once it's the shape that you like, flash cure it. And then stick it in the lamp for a full cure. So we're now going to make the strings that are holding it. So I'm using some gold caviar beads and then some silver caviar beads. And of course, the Ivy Fix gel. So at the bottom of each ornament, I'm adding one like medium size gold bead. You stick that underneath and then go fishing for the one that you dropped in the rhinestone glue. And then stick that underneath the other one. And then flash cure them into place. Always make sure to cover your rhinestone glue. And then we're going to put another of the medium gold directly on top, leading to like a string of gold and silver. That would be like what they're dangling from, if that makes sense. Now, if I'd been smart, I would have done each of these strings individually, but I thought I would save time by trying to do them all at once. And I think that in life, every time you try to do that, it never really works out. But I'm doing 2 silver beads, followed by the same size gold bead, followed by 2, followed by the gold. And then I'm just adding that into a little sort of vertical line to indicate like the string that these ornaments are hanging from. And then pushing them all back into place because of course they have moved with gravity. Then doing the rest of the string on the longer bead string. And then pushing them back into place because they've all moved. And then flash curing them into place before sticking them under the lamp for a full cure. And that nail is now done. So now comes like the super difficult part. So on the pinky, we're going to be doing a little candy cane. Now, I do not have colored 3D clay. I wish I did. I really want to pick up the Chrysania Neri clay, but you know, it's the holidays. I've already spent all my money on my nibblings and such. So I'm just using this sort of milky white, and I'm going to be adding in some of the same red and some of the same white that I've used on the plaid nails to sort of color this gel in. Now you have to be sort of careful. You cannot make this too thick or it will struggle to cure. But for the little thin things that I'm doing with it today, it will be fine. So yeah, mix it up. My biggest frustration with this is that it does stick to your gloves. You have to keep adding more rubbing alcohol to like not stick it, which is my motivation to save up and get the Chrysania Neri because it supposedly does not stick to your gloves. We will be doing the white, but I'm leaving a little bit of, I wanted it to be sort of like a pinkish white. So I didn't clean off the red from making the red string off my gloves. So it's sort of made like a pinky, like a super light pink with the added white, which is what I wanted. So it turned out nicely. And then we're going to twist these two together to look like a candy cane. Now my desk has like a silicone placemat on it that I got for this. So you can, I can use that to roll it out here, but use like a palette or something to roll it out on if you don't have a silicone placemat on your desk like I do. So I do recommend it. It works great. And then you sort of roll it into a candy cane. And then I'm going to use this little dollar store craft knife to cut off the two ends that are, not quite mixed that well. And then we're going to stick this on the pinky nail in a candy cane formation. So turn it over into a little crook. And then stick it down, cut off any excess. You can always add more alcohol to your fingers and your tools if they're sticking too much. And then using a silicone tool in my fingers, I'm just sort of like wrestling it into place and stick it in for a full cure. Now I wanted the red. The red didn't quite turn out as red as I wanted, so I'm taking the red and I'm just painting over the red again to make it match the rest of the reds a little bit. I suppose, I could have just painted it all instead of trying to mix in the colors, but this seemed like a better option, So I didn't want to have to be too detailed. And I wanted to add a little gold accent line over the white. So I'm taking the same Mafia Nails gold color and I'm just adding like a little thin gold line across the center of the white. Make, because some candy canes have like little, a little extra flavor strip in there. And then send that in for a full cure and the candy cane nail is done. But now we have the hardest nail of all, the Christmas tree nail. Now I want all of y'all here to try to figure out what I messed up on. I'm going to be using those rhinestones as some ornaments and I'm pulling this out. I have already made a huge error that I have not noticed yet. And let's see if you can figure it out before I did. So I'm pulling in the green. And I'm going to be mixing in green because this is going to be a little Christmas tree. Going to be rolling it up. Always adding more alcohol. I've put on clean gloves for this. I didn't think it was green enough, so I'm adding in a little bit more. Mix it until it looks pretty good. Okay. We're going to roll it out. And we are going to separate it into little pieces. So I wanted to put it into like little mini triangles, little cones that I'm going to stick onto the nail and then smush around with to form the tree, which I will demonstrate here in a moment. So start sticking them, struggle to get it to stick down, have it stick to your nail, get incredibly frustrated. This is the true thing that happens. So I put some more liquid, some more rubbing alcohol on my craft knife, and finally it is sticking to the nail. Now I'm just using some silicone tools to sort of smush down the tree shapes, and then I'm just going to sort of keep pushing at it until it looks enough like a little cartoonish little Christmas tree that I'm pleased with it. And then before curing, I'm going to be putting in some of the smallest of the red and pink little rhinestones to be Christmas tree ornament. And then once I finish this layer, and I'm happy with the placement of all the ornaments, stick it in for a full cure. And we're going to do the same thing for 2 more layers. So we're sticking on the green, smushing it around till it forms like the Christmas tree shape that I'm looking for, and then sticking in the little rhinestone ornament. Pushing them into the gel to get them adhered. And sticking in for a full cure. And then finally we're doing the top of the tree. I realized I put a little bit too much, so you can just, take your tools and remove some if you've added too much. Rubbing alcohol is your friend when working with this. So I'm smushing it into a top of a tree shape. Make it nice and pointy. Add in a few ornaments. And again, after doing that, we're going to stick it in for another full cure. So I'm taking this again, and we're going to be taking the gold powder that sort of matches the gold liner gel that I have. And we're just going to mix a little bit of the powder in with the 3D gel. It's just a lot easier to mix chrome powder in with this than it is to mix more gel in. It doesn't make it quite as sticky as adding the gel does, but we're going to be making gold for a little garland and a star on top of the tree. You want to roll it into as thin of a little snake as you can, because this tree is very tiny. And we're going to be sort of fitting it on top of the tree. And then I found that my little X-Acto knife was really great for this, for like pushing it around into sort of a squiggly shape like a garland would be. And once you've got those all in place and you're happy with how they look, it's all stuck down, making nice little squiggles, you can stick it for another full cure. And then on my silicone mat, I'm just forming a little star, which if I'd been smart, I would have cured and then stuck on the tree. But I decided to remold it again on the top of the tree and just use a little pointy silicone tool to smush it into 5 little deformed looking little points, and then stick it under the lamp to cure again. So it's at this point that I realized that I put the tree on the nail completely upside down from the rest of the nails. And I had to then pry it off the nail and turn it around and sand the back so it fit the right curve and stick it back down. I ended up having to make a new star, but make sure you put things on the nail the right way. Now let's top coat these nails. We're going to be using the standard around the charms so that it fills in any gaps. And we're going over the metal stars so that they don't tarnish. Always go over your metal charms. We're sticking some underneath the new star that I remolded off camera and around the edges of the tree that has been put on the right way. And then with the Crazy Top Soft is what we're going to go over the rest of the nails with. So the soft is like a really thin consistency so that it won't sort of change the shape of, too much of what your sort of molded things. You can sort of scrub it out a little. I really like the Crazy Top Soft. So we're just covering all of the nails with some top coat. Making sure everything's nicely coated and sealed in. Like really scrub in so that you're not sort of dulling out the details on the tree here. Because you want it to still have that tree texture. And once you're done, stick it under the lamp and we are finished. That was what I did to make these nails. So if you make your own sort of elaborate Christmas nails, I would love to see them. So please link them and let me know if this, was helpful. Thank you for hanging out with me. I hope all of y'all have a great Christmas, that you're having a good holidays if you celebrate. And if not, I hope you're having a nice week anyway. Hopefully it's not quite as snowy as it is where I live. But that was just in time for the weather. So anyway, thank you for hanging out with me. I will be back soon next week with another video. And I hope you have a great week. Okay, talk to you soon. Bye.